Side note punchline, Sammy Davis Jr. is a renowned Satanist, like a legit one. Like he rolled hard with Anton LaVey.
Yeah.
Wow.
There you go.
So punchline.
But and so he
motherfucking goddamn orange peel beef.
All right, everybody. It's one fucking hour time. Of course, this is the show where we have just one fucking hour to talk about one goddamn movie. I'm Evan Husney, and of course, I am joined to my left, as always, by Big T, Tom Fitzgerald. What's going on over there?
Tannis, anyone?
Amazing. Okay, Tannis Root time for us. And of course, we have, as usual here, all the way to the right, we got Mr. Marcus Herring. Marcus, what's going on, man?
Hey, not much. Doing pretty good today, except for I got a mouse bite last night while I was sleeping.
What?
Oh my God. Check it out.
Is that real?
Or maybe it was, it was the chocolate mousse. The chocolate mousse.
Oh, chalky undertone.
All right. And special guest returning to the show, as always, when we're doing a film like this. You know who it is. Ring, Ramey Bennett. What's going on, Ramey? Welcome back to the show.
Thank you so much. I'm so grateful that you guys invited me for this episode. It's my favorite movie.
Ooh.
And I'm so happy.
Nice.
Ooh.
I'm thrilled to be talking
It's
about
coming
this.
live from the Trauma Center.
Yeah.
Trauma Center. Yep. The Triage Trauma Center.
The Trauma Center. That's right. Well, tonight we're very excited because this is the third episode, the third week in our
One fucking Tober
series that we're doing here all month long for the month of October. And we've been wanting to do this title for a very long time. I can't believe it's been taking us this long to do it, but we're here. We're doing.
Was it on the poll in 1968 last year when we did?
That's right. That's right.
I think
this
so.
this was a poll.
That was a bummer. I was hoping you got picked.
That's right. We did some audience polls last year, made you guys vote on some films, and this one did not win, but here we are. We're finally covering it. Roman Polanski's Rosemary's Baby. We are covering tonight for episode 118 of the show, of course, for the One Fucking Tober series. But before we get into that, guys, just a quick shout out to the One Fucking Hour Patreon. Patreon.com/onefuckinghour is where you can sign up to become a Moman of the channel, get instant access to all of our bonus apps, audio commentary tracks, all that stuff. If you like what we're doing here, it's the best way to support the show. So we appreciate you if you do that. Also, if you want to support us and keep all your content also on YouTube, you can click our YouTube homepage, click the join button, and become a Moman there. Same price, same benefits.
Sign up, or we're gonna get sponsored by Me Undies.
Or
like we're in we're in negotiations with like Mushroom Coffee. Black Rifle Coffees.
Oh my God.
Okay. Right. So you don't want that to happen. So if you want to support the show, keep us going, keep the lights on here, hit up the Patreon. Also, I think by the time you hear this, and if you're not convinced yet to sign up for the Patreon, I'm going to put an episode up for free on the YouTube channel. I'm going to put our Texas Chainsaw Massacre audio commentary track up on the YouTube for free. 'Tis the season. So you get a little taste of what we're doing over there. So enjoy that.
And it happens to be the 50th anniversary of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Booyah.
Which we saw at the MoMA. Which is,
We hung out with Jerry. Don't forget that.
Yep.
Jerry.
Yeah.
Jerry and Grandpa.
that was fucking awesome.
That's right. Unbelievable.
We were sitting behind Jerry
We were.
watching the Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
We
He
were.
was texting on his Nokia during the whole film.
And Tom almost kicked his seat.
I did.
That's right.
Before I
We
knew
got
who it
very-
was, I was ready to chainsaw him.
That's right. We went to go see Texas Chainsaw Massacre at MoMA here in New York earlier this year. And we were unbelievably seated behind Jerry. And he was wearing his Paisley shirt. But we had no idea it was him till after the movie. But he did shout us out at the end, which was pretty cool. So
Yeah, very starstruck.
yeah, totally starstruck. Okay, so Patreon, you know the gimmicks. Sign up, $5 a month. But let's get into the main show. Are you guys ready to do this? I think This is going to be tricky because this is a monster title, and
Yeah,
the 1
it
hour
is.
time limit's going to suck balls. So we're going to try to get it all in. So I'm ready. So here's the clock, everybody. Here we go. All right, Rosemary's Baby. I'm not even going to waste any time with the clock to give a plot synopsis. We all know this movie, stone cold classic. You know, so I just wanted to get into this, and I'm going to throw it to you, Ramey, since you're the guest. Let's talk a little bit about the fact that this movie, began as an adaptation of a book by Ira Levin. And why is that so significant? Because a lot of people usually name check this as one of the great adaptations, right, of all time.
Yeah, I think it's considered unanimously by writers and novelists as the greatest, most faithful adaptation of all time in terms of a film. Stephen King always talks about this movie as like the gold standard example of being faithful to the text.
Nice.
And I'm a fan, both a huge fan of the book and a huge fan of the movie. And I think Ira Levin is so interesting because he was very much a mainstream author who was creating these incredible bestsellers that were very timely, very prescient to the historical moment. Specifically, The Stepford Wives and Rosemary's Baby are both talking about women in the 1960s and the early 70s in the moment of this like surge of social progress during the women's liberation movement, and kind of like the horror of being a woman in that era, and also the fear that men have of losing control and the shifting of those gender roles. And I love how this movie also tackles, we'll talk about it later, but you know, the pregnancy horror, the idea of like reproductive rights, male patriarchy, and it's almost like a fever dream of male patriarchy, and was described by the New Yorker critic, what was her name at the time? Penelope Juliet, and she called it gynecological gothic.
Oh, I like that.
Which I love. Yeah.
Amazing. Yeah.
It's a small genre. It's a narrow genre.
Very narrow, but very important.
It's a great, important genre. So yeah, Rosemary's Baby. I mean, I don't know. I just kind of wanted, unless you guys had anything you wanted to get off the top here with this movie, I just kind of wanted to dive headfirst into the opening credit sequence of this movie. So iconic, incredible, just amazing shots of New York City. And you're seeing, of course, the soundtrack, amazing. I guess Mia Farrow is the voice singing in that opening song as well, which is pretty cool. And then that amazing, Marcus, you're going to love this, that pink typeface.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
So amazing.
Like this movie is kind of like a bridge between, like, you know, the older style movies and in the 70s in so many ways, which we'll get to,
Maybe
I'm
it's
sure.
on
But that
the
font
cusp.
selection is
It's a cusp redux. Remember
right. It's a
cusp fever last year.
It's a cusper, and yes, the font is part of that because it's got that classic, almost like Hitchcock kind of like script. Very nice.
It's awesome.
Well, what I was going to say, just my tiny thing about all that is, this is still that fantasy land, New York City, like called like Barefoot in the Park.
Yeah.
We've talked about this a few times, where like it's 65 to 60 to right to this film. There's that kind of, it's a fairy tale version of New York City, as opposed to then French Connection, which is so abrasive in comparison. So this is a perfect
Breakfast
example. That's
at
one of the
Tiffany's
last
or something, right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Breakfast at
And I
Tiffany's.
think too, to speak to both of what you guys were saying in terms of this almost like transition, it's almost like Rosemary's Baby almost exists in this interesting middle ground where we're transitioning from that sort of Barefoot in the Park into that realism. And we're this is sort of this amalgamation, which is something also interesting that Ira Levin brought to this story, where like he took the idea of the Gothic horror, which, you know, traditionally, like you have the 40s with like the mansions and the fog and Vincent Price and you know, the dark shadows and ghosts, and then in the 50s you have like the creature feature and Red Scare stuff, and then this is bringing the horror into like the mundane, into the everyday. And because it's set in contemporary New York City with a young couple in a contemporary apartment building, it completely shifted like what the genre would eventually become. And it's almost like the mundane, the normalcy, the tinged with the terrifying and uncanny. I think that's also what really struck
it's
people.
grounded by like real horrors instead of like fairy tale horrors. You know,
Yeah.
Just the only little other observation here, we're just gonna do this little chunk about like how there's an interesting, cool friction and the cuspiness of it all. I love that. If you think about it objectively this way, it's a William Castle from like The Tingler, you know,
Yeah,
like
totally.
a shock gimmick guy,
Yeah.
making a movie, producing like the guy who made, you know,
Cul-de-sac.
Compulsion.
Yeah.
Roman Polanski. So that's a beautiful thing, and that's rare. Where you get like a hard art house guy with his, you know, different style, different outlook, but it's embedded inside kind of the Disneyland haunted house horror. You know, very
Right.
cool.
Right.
And then you have Robert Evans.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like that fucking trifecta. The man who ushered in the new Hollywood, who kind of took films away from that Doris Day sort of schlock
Yep.
into the world of like hard, gritty realism and movies
It
like,
was his genius vision to get Polanski. So it really is a tribute to him and his visionary outlook on things, because he's surfing the cusp. That's all I'm-
totally. And I think it's really important, like like you said earlier, Tom, too, like to talk about, sometimes there's this amazing thing that happens in film history where there's this bizarre, perfect alchemy that's almost like a strange brew of like perfect artistic
Yes.
collaboration. Same thing with Texas Chainsaw, like you
Yes.
spoke about, where like by chance, you know, you have this young girl from Peyton Place who's trying to break into films. You have a Polish greedy independent art film guy. You've got Robert Evans trying to redesign Hollywood, and then William Castle, who's kind of fading
On his
in
way
his
out.
career from
Yeah.
and wanting to make his idea of a Hitchcock film.
Yeah,
And he's
right.
like, my whole life I've made schlock.
Yeah.
It's been successful. I love it, but I want this to be A+, top of the line excellence in the vein of Hitchcock and Psycho, and so this was like this perfect, like, I don't know, combustion of talent and
It was
time.
alchemy, and it might not have worked, but it all is 100% perfect. You know?
Yeah.
There's more to the cuspiness of it all. Like, and you know, you've got Mia Farrow, who's the girl of the day, 1966 girl. You know, but then you've got the rest of the cast populated with all these old Hollywood stars. You know, Ruth Gordon goes
Yeah.
back to the silent era. And
Totally.
You've got the one with the glasses, Patsy Kelly. She's an
Mhm.
old film star. Ralph
Sure.
Bellamy. Like, it's all the old people are old
Well,
Hollywood.
New York
actor.
theater people
And-
too coming to it's cool.
and you got John Cassavetes in the mix, you know, who's
Oh!
like doing this
so wild. I
super
know, like,
There we
underground-
go.
Give me the guy who did Faces. Like
Yeah.
the lead is the guy who did Faces, and he
Right,
does a
and
great
then-
job.
Yeah.
And then it's
He's
incredible
an
because it's like,
MVP in the movie.
what
Yeah.
the fuck? Like, yeah, how historically that's so insane that like
Yeah.
this other person who was like on such the cutting edge of
I
that kind
know.
of like independent film, who then
Yeah.
won an Oscar for Faces in 1968 when
Incredible.
Rosemary's Baby came out.
Yeah.
So
crazy.
there we
Right.
go.
Yeah.
And this
It's
could
crazy.
have been, for instance, like I think Robert Redford was shortlisted, and he would have
Yes.
been boring and
They wanted
sleptwalked
Robert
through
Red.
it.
Yep, yep.
But the way that Cassavetes can't look at Mia when she's
Hmm.
seeing the baby for the first time,
it's
he's like
amazing.
covering. I mean, like, his performance is essential,
It
and
is.
he nails it, and just great casting. We can talk more about the casting.
We
I
will.
know.
We will.
Polanski
Okay,
said that Jack Nicholson also read for the role too.
They thought he was too demonic.
Yeah. He is
Cassavetes is pretty
Nicholson-
demonic.
But Cassavetes has that low rent look too. Like he's
Yeah.
kind of got that scuzzy bit player actor studio vibe where like he could totally be someone who never made it, who kind of just hung around and got drunk at bars and was like a
That's
pain
exactly
in the ass.
my takeaway.
Yeah.
Like he looked the part
Jack
of like
Totally.
the guy who never is kind of washed
Right.
up early. You know,
Jack to me has like a more like overtly devilish face, you know, and what he's trying to do. But Cassavetes to me kind of has this more like he does have a more he has a more subtle demonic presence in the way that he looks, and I think that he's perfect casting for this movie. But we should get into that. But just to kind of circle back to go back to the movie a little bit, you know, we're seeing these incredible, beautiful landscape shots of New York City, the pink typeface. We're going into the Dakota building for this, and we're seeing these kind of, newlyweds, that have like their best years in front of them, and they're about to take a tour of the apartment, and they're going to see this. Now, this is something I noticed on this rewatch that I had not noticed previously, which is as soon as the door opens and that, the guy who's like the real estate guy showing him the apartment, as soon as the door opens and he leads them into the apartment for the first time, there's like a jump cut I don't know if you guys remember this, but it's like very like to me it's like, whoa, what's that all about? Then of course you see you see Mia Farrow looking through all the different things in the apartment, and you see that note that's written there. I can no longer
and he holds on that
associate
note
myself. Yeah, like that's also destabilizing.
Awesome.
Yeah, and then of course the ultimate Polanski detail, which is amazing, is very reminiscent of like something like out of The Tenant. Shout out, which we've also covered. Is when you see that piece of furniture that, of course, is in front of the closet door, barricaded there, and then it pans down to like the like the struggle of getting the scratching in the floors to get that there.
Yeah, it makes a harsh noise. But also, that's a great. Everything happens. So much happens in the beginning of the film because you're also noticing that she's very observant.
Yeah,
because she's looking at this, and you see this throughout the film where she's like, that's here, but it was obviously over there, like recently, because the way ground looks.
I love that. That's such a great point. Like how instantly we're so with her as a character. Like, and Polanski talks about that too, like how he achieved that subjectivity, like with the focal lenses and being really close to her all the time. And right off the bat, you're like, oh, this woman, it's very interesting. Like she's looking around, she's very perceptive. And right off the bat, it's like we're in her mind, and I think that's really cool.
Yes, it does establish her point of view because this whole movie is told through her point of view and the way she's seeing this conspiracy unfold, and we're all on her side throughout this whole film, obviously, and that's very important so we can pick up on the details that she's noticing right away,
and we identify too, like with her.
Totally. Yeah, absolutely.
And like you said, it's reflected in the cinematography too, like because it's like a lot of it is those sort of like wide, like 18mm lenses, where it's like kind of like it's basically your eye view, like we can see like what your eye, you get to kind of choose what you see, or it's really close on someone's face,
Yeah, I love the tight ones of her. Like it feels like you're just on her shoulder the whole time, like with her, which I love.
Yeah. So then, Mia Farrow's character, she meets this other character. Her name is Teresa in the film. They're doing laundry together in the basement. Great scene with that very disturbing like glass shattering in the background.
I'll bet I've seen him. Wow.
Another kind of weird kind of jump scare thing that kind of destabilizes you.
Foreshadowing,
foreshadowing. And then they sort of develop a relationship, and then all of a sudden, shortly thereafter, Mia Farrow's coming back to the apartment, and we see the very bloody, very violent
it's very gory. I was
surprised
rewatching it. Like the blood splatter on the Volkswagen. She hit like the car. Like, Jesus Christ. And that, I got to say, that kind of shot, it's cuspy because that wasn't really happening like 2 years before.
No.
Like they have
it feels very gritty.
Yeah, it's very gross. Like, and he lingers on it,
Yeah.
I also love when she meets Terry in the basement, and that as a kid, I always loved that little relationship because it starts this very creepy dynamic of like that foreshadowing. And I love how she talks about too, like she doesn't have family. She's kind of almost like a runaway that was then like picked up by picked up by these elder people, and that foreshadows kind of the way that they end up being predatory with these young women. Like they choose women who are estranged from their families because Rosemary also is estranged from her family.
The little line she says is like, I thought it was a weird sex thing at first.
They're childless, though. I'm like the daughter they never had. At first, I thought they wanted me for some kind of a sex thing, but they've turned out to be like real grandparents.
It's like,
creepy, swinging, like old people orgies.
Swinging, gross 80-year-old people. Like,
Oof.
Yeah.
Awful.
Oh, just two little short things about this scene. I love the intentional practical lighting. I can see the lamps hanging like from the ceiling to show that you're in the basement. It feels kind of like post Hard Day's Night or something to have all these practicals intentionally in the shot.
Sure.
In the shot.
Right.
And then also, this is so weird, but she says to her like, "Oh, I thought you were Victoria Vetri."
Yeah.
But that is her name.
That's
in
her
real
real name.
That's so weird.
Yeah.
There's a lot of like weird, like on the note, like the names in the film, Cassavet, Cassavetes. His name is Roman Cassavet You know, it's like Roman
Yeah, I know.
Polanski, Cassavetes hybrid.
And
You know,
and Cassavetes.
it's like what the
Yeah.
hell? You know,
like coincidentally,
it's
yeah.
super coincidental and weird. Yeah. But also
it is.
kind of eerie about this movie is when you are seeing Teresa's body, like, you know, like the violent splat, you know, on the pavement. It's really upsetting.
Mm-hmm.
But when you see that, it's hard to not think about, you know, John Lennon, you know, being shot outside that same building.
Well, do you want to do this?
Well,
Let's do
yeah.
the 20-second version.
Sure.
Roman Polanski, wife murdered, Manson family, White Album, Helter Skelter,
Yep.
John Lennon, Beatles, John Lennon, Dakota Building, murdered, blood.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, you,
I mean,
you
we
missed
should-
one. You
Yeah,
missed
you did.
one. Mia Farrow in India with the Beatles when they were doing the White Album, Dear
Yeah.
Prudence, and like about her sister and stuff. So
Her
then
sister
that
Prudence.
goes
Yeah.
the Manson family. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like we should go here a little bit later, but because I feel like there's a lot, right? Like with the time period, like there's so much significance here. And it's like I said to you
Go
guys
for it.
before, like
Go for it.
the movie's set in 1965,
Yeah.
even though the film was produced in 1967.
Mhm.
So it's really cool. It's like one of those things where it's like the near past
Yeah.
period piece.
love that.
Where like 65 in New York, oh my God, it's like Shea Stadium show with the Beatles. It's
Mhm.
like the height of like civil rights, the beginning of the women's movement, like swinging hipsters, like they just this kind of, and then as the years go on, you have like the strife in 1968 where everything, the free love and the hippie movement is in like full fever dream and then comes
the
crashing
riot in
down.
Chicago and
N-
Nixon getting
yeah.
elected. you know.
Democratic convention, you have Malcolm X, you have the assassination of Robert Kennedy, you have Martin Luther King. So, and then it's like, bam, 1969, Sharon
Bad
Tate is
Moon
murdered.
Rising.
And it is the end of the 60s and the end
Yeah.
of
Led
the
Zeppelin
youth
won.
movement. So it's like, I was like, this is fucking crazy because Rosemary's Baby historically is this almost like mirroring chronologically of the rise and fall of the youth movement and the hippie movement. And it's like, there's so much in the movie too that talks about like that idea of like that panic and then like fomenting the idea of Satanism, which
Well, and
all that stuff.
the Satanists are keep saying like year one, you know,
Yeah.
like, in a way, 1968, year one of like the dark side, you know. The
Yeah.
bad
And I think to go back to the film too, like in terms of like we were talking about like this young couple, they're coming into this old building and they're like breathing new life into it. You know, like she's this kind of modern 1965 woman
Yeah.
who is like redecorating.
And
She's like,
haircut.
and got the Vidal Sassoon haircut. And she represents really a young modern woman coming out of that age in the 50s where
Right.
it was like the domestic goddess, housewife hell into that world of like, how do we establish ourselves as like independent women, making choices about our bodies? The pill had just come out. And so it's so interesting where even her redecorating, you know, it's like she takes
Well,
this
all her
old,
friends
oh,
are clearly fully
Yeah.
modern,
Totally.
forward-looking women, you
Yeah.
know, in
Yeah.
the kitchen.
totally
Yeah.
hip. And so it's interesting when like she's in this apartment building juxtaposed with this sort of the older gothic Satanists who are kind of like, trying to pull her back into
Crowley
the dark
types.
ages.
Yeah.
And she's
Pawing their
desperately,
young flesh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
you know.
yeah,
Yeah.
you
And
know,
she does a marvelous job with the redecoration, by the way. It's
gorgeous.
incredible.
I love it.
It's very chic, very nice.
but also the colors, like it's very
hits of
feminine,
yellow.
it's very light and sunny and bright. And I
amazing.
think that was
Right.
very unique to a horror movie at the time. Like it's
Totally.
like you said, Tom, it's like we're combining that almost like mainstream,
Yeah.
barefoot in the park, like beautiful sunny imagery with this like really dark undercurrent.
Yeah. Yeah.
But Evan,
dig
back
down-
on,
I want to dig down on the pixie haircut for a second because there's something interesting. Like there's a little bit of a legend that's built up, but I always believe this too that Polanski wanted like a big change in the movie, so he had Vidal Sassoon come and give her the haircut. You know, but I guess it's not true. Like,
Yeah, it's not true.
She cut her own hair.
She's
Yeah,
rocking
she cut
it.
her own hair.
For on Peyton Place, and it like shocked the cast and crew, and they had
Yeah.
to like make script adjustments for it, and
Yeah, she's wearing a
and,
wig.
and she cut it
before that.
herself, you know.
Yeah,
so Vidal
she cut her-
Sassoon came in to kind of like
Never knew that.
to kind of style it, and I think that was like William Castle. You know, he's got that history of like having these media events to kind of hype his movies, right? With like Percepto or whatever the different little things he staged. So I
Yeah.
think that became I think that's what he did was he made the
Oh,
Vidal
yeah.
Sassoon thing
Basically
part like
getting
big
a Twiggy.
a press event.
Twiggy.
But
It was
a
very
Twiggy
it.
haircut,
Very,
you know?
yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
right.
Twiggy.
And
Okay.
Mia was like the it girl, and she was doing the Twiggy thing.
Yeah.
And, yeah.
So just a quick little set piece here. I just wanted to make sure we talked about is shortly after, Teresa's death, and she has this nightmare that's amazing, and the way that it's depicted in the film is very interesting. She's laying down, and it pans up to this shot of a nun who's speaking, but the dialogue is slightly out of sync. I mean, what an incredible.
Well, it's what you're hearing and what
Yeah.
she's hearing in her dream state is the overheard other side of the wall,
right.
and the Castavets like being loud and old. And I love that is so unnerving,
It
like
is.
because it's not even that it's totally mismatched. So it's like she's seeing the gibberish words said of the nun, but she's hearing the Castavets. Minnie.
Yes.
Very unnerving. Great technique.
Great
Very
technique.
simple but unnerving.
And then we see flashbacks to in I guess you could say they are in her dream visions of her being a little Catholic schoolgirl and being yelled at by the nun, and it's amazing. It's just a really cool, unnerving, as you
Dude.
said, is a perfect word. Just little set piece there that foreshadows again more just like the fuck,
And I just love that he makes like a wall menacing.
Yeah,
Like it pans up from her, and there's some simple shadows over just a dumb
yeah,
wallpapered wall, but with that the sonics of it,
Yeah.
and but also the choice of the camera and the pace of the camera's movement is just like something's kind of wrong and
yeah.
brilliant.
It's really brilliant.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like, Repulsion, from a few years prior, he's kind of flexing those same muscles while just making the confines of an apartment, being very, terrifying and ominous. And he's playing with that same thing here.
Chanting through the walls. It's so eerie. It's
Yeah.
amazing.
It's amazing. It's
And
incredible.
it's left unresolved. Like it
Yeah.
cuts to them walking on the street, and like what I mean is the film
Yeah.
and our lead characters, they aren't addressing it. Like there's no scene where they talk about it and go, "Look at that chanting last night." It's just
Yeah.
like that happened, and it's like on to the next scene,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
was the death of the girl.
Right.
Right.
Amazing,
Right.
amazing. The incremental buildup of foreboding energy,
Yes.
brilliant. It's
Yeah.
masterclass on that.
Really great.
Yeah.
So they meet the Cassavets, as the next door neighbors. And then obviously, unbeknownst to Mia Farrow's character, her husband makes this sort of Faustian deal with them, or he's going to be, he's going to gain instant fame and get the part in this. Is it a play or is it a film?
I think it's stage stuff.
It's a
I think
stage
it might
thing.
be a
Oh, it's a
stage.
stage
Yeah,
because
it's
of
a
the makeup
stage.
and everything.
Yep.
Yeah, so he gets this part, because the other actor in the film, they put a spell on him to make him go blind, which is like pretty wild. And then this kind of gets us to John Cassavetes' character being exuberant. He comes home. Let's make a baby, a little mama, pa da da, poo poo.
A baby, mama, dad, poo poo,
You mean it?
Goo goo gaga.
Yeah.
What
And
a creep.
What a total fucking creep. Well, we're going to get to how creepy he can be here in just a second. And of course, the chocolate mousse is served. She gets from Miss Cassavet with the chalky undertaste. And then when this is what I want to talk about too, when she's under the influence of the drugs that are in, said chalky undertaste, incredible set piece again with her floating on the mattress and the composite shots of the waves. Very Fellini to me is how that hit this time.
Yeah.
Like an 8.5 set piece or something. And these amazing wide angle camera shots of all the sailors on the boat, as she's kind of having this trip, or whatever it is, these visions. It's incredible. It's just
Her dream.
It's his dream. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
It's funny the old people gave her the hallucinogens, not the hippies, like in 1960s.
Well, and they're like,
Well,
it's like a
can I
witch's
clarify?
brew.
Well, but just can I clarify? Like, she only eats half of the mousse, and that's the thing. And I think this is telling throughout the film.
yeah.
I think what you need to remember is these old people who are like the old souls of like people, 1,000 years ago. This is a 1968 woman or 66 woman, and she's like sharper. Like I said earlier, like she's like, what that Burrow was moved.
Yeah.
Are those why did they take down their paintings or the framed?
She's savvy. Like
that's what I'm saying. So she goes like, I'm not just going to eat this wholesale because dad. Husband says so, or she's like, you know what, I don't really like this, it kind of doesn't taste good, so she cheats. So what I'm saying is what they're used to is like the girl would be knocked out and not have a dream, and not tripping out, she would just be unconscious, and that's why she has half understanding. She says, this is not a dream, this is really happening, and that informs the rest of the film. So what I'm saying is it is a confrontation with a woman who is stronger and more to be reckoned with, and just completely passive and hypnotized by the patriarchy. I can't believe I just said that.
But seriously, it is. I mean, that gave me chills because the idea of being half awake during something like that, and that is actually such a great point, because she is savvy, but she's been so completely controlled and gaslit that she's descending into this state of like being controlled, but she's never fully, like she still has that sense of intellect and agency that like is an engine that drives her throughout the film.
It's her fight for her soul is really the theme of the film in a way.
Yeah, and her agency and autonomy. And in that moment, when she says, "This is no dream, this is really happening," it's like the fact that like she's having that sensation of like when like this is real.
Terrifying.
And I think
that's a great line, and she delivers it beautifully.
So scary.
And it's the kind of thing. My thing is just the montage. That's a montage you would not see like months before in film. There's nudity and stuff. And it's bloody.
Right.
Totally.
The Satan, naked old, like 80-year-old people. Fucking always love that.
Oh, in silhouette too, like a dark silhouette. Naked old people. My incredible.
God. Naked Ruth Gordon.
Yeah.
That wouldn't have happened
totally
like months before.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the only reason I think I even reference it as a hallucination, because it is like has its feet in that time period when everyone was dropping LSD, and I totally agree with you on the what was actually happening in the film. One thing I love about the filmmaking there is the sound design. It's so quiet, and it's not completely quiet. There's distant noises. The noise floor is high, and you hear distant noises, and you hear incongruous noises. You hear the indoor tick-tock of an alarm clock,
right?
And then you hear like wind as if it's on top of a mountain, so you have these sort of convergence.
It's almost she's hearing things that are happening maybe like in the room, and then hearing things in her dream and her unconscious. So it's like it is that,
and they're intermingling.
Yeah, they're intermingling, which is really cool.
So
incredible. Dreaming sounds.
Dream sounds. Yeah.
Holy shit.
It's amazing.
It really captures it.
It's hypnagogic. It's like she's having hypnagogia is that like stage between dream and waking.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Wow.
That'd be a cool death metal band.
I know.
Yeah. I'm sure it already is.
Wait, so in this like half waking nightmare, I just want to also point out too, incredible visual that we hadn't mentioned yet, that does kind of make itself full circle by the end, is when she's walking into that room, where they're essentially, where they're going to rape her. And she walks into that room, and there's that medieval building in flames in the background. That does echo at the end when you see it as like an oil painting, but it's in motion in this. And it's like,
I think that's St. Patrick's Cathedral in New York.
Yes. And that's just like,
cool.
Fuck,
cool.
that
Holy
is
shit.
Such a killer visual. Then you have the Satan Beast makeup, which is, it's amazing that he gets away with that, where it works, you know? It's like, if you were to see that guy walk on set, you'd be like, I don't know. But, he really makes it work. And it's terrifying, of course.
It's like Demon Lover Diary if you didn't handle it well.
It kind of does. Like Don Doler, a little bit.
Exactly.
And,
but he does it.
Yeah, he does it. He gets away with it. Mm-hmm. And then she wakes up, of course, from this, terrifying, has the nail scratches on her back.
And that's the framing of that shot is so beautiful.
So beautiful.
In the bed with the yellow light. And she's just
incredible. But then John Cassavetes makes this insane necrophilia joke. Well, I just
and it was kind of fun in a necrophile sort of way.
I just had my way with you anyway. I figured, why not? Tonight was the night.
Cut my nails.
Yeah.
He's the villain of the film.
He's the villain.
Because because he's trying to have it both ways. And actually, in
Yeah.
a weird way, to psychoanalyze this, he's a modern man
Yeah.
in that in the past, like he wants his cake and eat it too. All I'm saying is in the past, it just would have been like, control your woman, shut up, tell her to shut up, don't feed her what she wants to hear, just be like, shut up, woman, like, yeah. The devil raped you, fuck off. Like he's like, and he's like guilty and like smarmily trying to again like get ahead with Satanism, but like still be like an okay guy.
Nice guy.
I make like
yeah.
latter day capitalism analogies and stuff like that.
Well, no, but it's true because he's fooling
Rationalization.
himself by saying like, well,
Yeah.
I'm going to sacrifice all the morals that I'm pretending to have to better myself and my success and my narcissistic shit, while still having the wife and be like, but we can still have it all, darling. Like, I'm sorry I drugged and raped you and controlled your body for 9 months, but like,
He
we
sold
can
out
still
to
have a
Satan.
house in LA and, you know.
We didn't hurt you.
Exactly. And he's like, they didn't hurt you,
Yeah.
really?
Right.
Yeah.
Like, not
Yeah.
too
Right.
bad. Like,
What
Yeah.
a great detail about him too, like an amazing little detail about him. I'm sure it's in the book because the adaptation's so faithful. But him sitting 2 inches from the TV set for the purposes of waiting for his commercial to come on.
Yamaha
These
commercial,
dumb
yeah.
Yamaha commercials.
Wow.
yeah, during like the Mets game or something. I
Yeah,
know,
wow.
like inches away from the screen. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and so I think that's interesting.
And she's
because
kneeling over in pain.
I know.
Yes.
And I wanted to talk about that
Go
because
ahead.
it's so interesting because I went to see the movie last week. It was playing at the Village East, on 12th Street
And 35.
and in the big theater.
Yeah.
Nice.
And
Oh.
it was incredible. I went with my mom in like the middle of the day,
Wow.
and it was great to see it in that immersive way. And I started crying during those scenes where she was in so much pain. Like I literally, for the first time, it was like just being like, that is so heartbreaking. Like that she's like, she can't voice it. She
Yeah.
doesn't have, she's being so stifled in her ability to be heard and listened to. And she's just doubled over in silence. Like he's joking around, they're playing Scrabble. And then she goes and holding her stomach, bending over. And those shots are just incredible. And yeah, I felt that on like a deeper level this time when I watched it. Yeah.
They
So
definitely have that patriarchal relationship thing going on with he's like she's so young, and she looks young. She looks
Yeah.
like a little girl. She looks even younger with the hairdo, and she gets so skinny and
she does.
Yeah.
he force feeds her. She's like, "Do I get a gold star, Daddy?"
Yeah.
And like,
yeah.
she's like, "Let's make love," and he's like, "Okay." He doesn't even. I don't know. He doesn't say anything at all. It's like there's
Yeah,
definitely
and he's
that
obsessed
kind of-
with all and even before the pregnancy happens, like she's talking to Hutch and stuff about like how obsessed he is with his work and his role, and so it's very apparent early on that this guy is totally self-obsessed and consumed with himself. And
Love Hutch.
so he's like the perfect. Yeah, I love Hutch too.
yeah.
Oh, Hutch. Trusted friend meme all day.
So
You get what I'm
good.
saying? I love
Yeah,
when the movie said the trusted friend.
I know.
And then they get killed.
Yeah, what's interesting about the Hutch character is he has one little sliver of dialogue that hints at something else that's going on with Rosemary, which is, he mentions when he's a little, he's obviously very dubious of the Cassavetes, and he says,
and of Guy.
and
too.
of Guy, of course, but he says, you take better care of Rosemary than her own parents.
You and your wife seem to be taking better care of Rosemary than her own parents.
Oh, we're very fond of her, and of Guy, too.
Which is the only little hint of what could be happening in her own family
Oh, I
life.
never caught that.
Which
Yeah.
which is kind of just a little exposition perfectly delivered. Go ahead, Raym.
In the book, it explains more. She's estranged from her parents, and
Oh, okay.
she's actually went to NYU for philosophy and is a secretary at CBS, which Hutch got her that job because he's a
Oh, I
writer.
love that.
And then she's like not working right now because she's getting the house together and going to get pregnant, but like she's always intending on like going back to her job.
Yes. Wow.
And
I'm reading the book. Man.
it's great.
Wow.
Oh, you'll love the book. But
Yeah.
Hutch, so I think it also speaks to the fact, like I was saying before, like the way when people are in like coercive, abusive relationships or cults or satanic, like they choose people who don't have supports around them, right?
No, sure.
And, like,
So
they
she's
target
more
them.
like Terry. She's more like Terry than you would have thought necessarily.
Yeah, like
which is
there's an
interesting. I
element.
wasn't sure-
There's an element there.
Yeah, I wasn't sure how together Rosemary was actually in her upbringing. Interesting.
Where Guy knows that, and I think
Yeah.
that's also really disturbing.
Well,
he
you
knows
need
that
that
she is
too,
so
because-
weak. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you need to explain that detail because you need to explain why her parents don't show up once.
Yeah,
she's
why aren't
pregnant.
they there?
Oh, that's true.
Oh, yeah,
yeah.
right.
She has nowhere to go.
True that.
So-
True
Nowhere to
that.
go.
I was wondering if we could Evan, if this is okay, if we could talk about like kind of
No.
asking his permission.
Go ahead.
Yeah,
Daddy.
yeah, exactly.
Do you get a gold
drop
star?
moose.
All right.
No, because
What do
you
you
know it's
want
all.
to do?
But so so I love also like how the film is kind of like in two parts. You have like the before the pregnancy and
Yeah.
then like the pregnancy section, and what's the pregnancy section where you see all of the conspiracy, coercion, control, gaslighting, like all that shit is so fucking disturbing. And I even from I'd love to talk about the moment when she realizes she's pregnant, and then Guy immediately, let's tell Roman and Minnie, and then immediately it's like, oh, what doctor are you seeing? No, stop seeing that doctor. We're getting you a new, and like right there you see the way they're isolating her and like creating this whole like control, and that
there's a visual. They unplug the phone because early on she gets the call and she's talking to her friend, and it's like, let's get that phone unplugged.
Ooh,
It's
so
like,
scary.
it's a nice
And
visual
then
moment
how
there.
quickly Guy, her husband, is so on that. Like
he is.
Every little moment he can intervene to like obstruct her or control her or get in the way of her getting free. It's so scary. It's so creepy.
Well, how
and
about
scary.
this? When
But
she
she hides pills and doesn't drink the drink. Like
Right.
they're not used to a gal like this.
Yeah.
And like before that moment, like where you could just tell he's doing everything he can, like where she wants to see Hutch, and then that moment where she wants to see Hutch, and then Cassavetes hears her on the phone and then goes up to the Cassavetes, pretending that he's going to get ice cream, and basically tells them, okay, she's going to meet him at the Time and Life building. And to me, that whole scene when she's out on the street.
Yeah. There's also like that one scene where Guy like races home with the full face of makeup, from the production. That's just a great way to illustrate like how frantically, he rushed home to put a stop to things.
Because he's stealing the glove from Hutch so they can put a spell on him.
Of course, it's amazing. It's just, that's really where the terror of this film comes from, is just when you have a conspiracy of people sort of working against you at every turn. And what's heartbreaking, of course, to watch is you as the viewer are brought into the fact that Guy is corrupt right from the start. You know that he is, but she doesn't know. And so every time she's going to him and giving him too much information, and it's so painful to see that, Guy, you were saying, is the villain of the film, but there's another villain in this film that we should talk about. Charles fucking Grodin as the other villain.
He doesn't know. He doesn't know.
No, I'm just kidding.
Well, he's just a willing, he's just part of the patriarchy.
Yeah, he's like, this woman's crazy,
That's the creepy. That's the culmination of like they're all in on it against me. Is when she wakes up from that nap in the darkened room. That's so creepy. Like it is. The door opens and it's that classic thing. There's so much that gets ripped off from this movie, but it's like door opens, the first person, and you're like, oh, and then the next person, and then they're all 2, 3, 4 deep walking through the door, and they're all in it, and they're like, let's go home, Rosemary.
Yeah.
And that's like the Grodin character. It's like speaking to, like you said, Tom, the levels of the patriarchal like control and structure, because like, you have the people who are actually literally holding her prisoner and then another man who's just like, a doctor who's like, this woman's suffering from post
hysteria,
pre-partum hysteria. And so I think like even when Guy mentions it later, he says like, you were suffering from prenatal partum and crazies. And I'm like, for a movie at this time to be talking about that too is pretty incredible. And Polanski also talked about how he loved the ambiguity, that like part of the film, there always is going to be that ambiguity of like, is this some kind of psychosis brought on by the pregnancy, or is this really happening?
Yeah.
And it is really happening.
When she's talking to Grodin and she's breaking down her understanding of things, that does sound like, okay, she needs some meds, she needs to sleep for the week, because she's like, and then because there are people out there who do have paranoid schizophrenic tendencies, and they will rattle off things like they're all in on it and everything. So that's the true nightmare.
Yeah.
And that's another thing that's been stolen ever since this film came out.
I know.
Really.
Yeah.
of just like it sounds crazy, but it's true.
Yeah, I was just
You
going to
know?
say really quickly about Charles Grodin, because the reason I said that he's the real villain is because there was kind of a Nurse Ratched thing going on with him, where apparently, like, for years, because this is Charles Grodin's first big film appearance. And for years after the fact, people would basically come up to him and like, "How come you didn't help her?"
Yeah.
You know, like,
Yeah, and they're like, why didn't you
transcended.
believe her? And he's like, I didn't know. I didn't know. Like,
He wouldn't get work. Like no one would hire him. 'Cause
so
the
there was like people in the
shithead
street or like at,
doctor.
at a cafe.
It's
He's
amazing.
too good at the role. You know?
He's great.
Yeah, he's great at that. role.
Perfect. Yeah.
Love him.
but-
Love him.
But back to the scene where she goes to meet Hutch.
I love
also
this.
because it's like I love how like we were saying. Oh, me and Evan were talking about just like the B-roll of New York, but also the feeling of like that Polanski captures of like her imprisonment and claustrophobia inside the apartment,
Yep.
repulsion style, that
Yep.
she can't quite escape from.
Yeah.
And then when she goes out after she's impregnated, everything is disoriented and disjointed and almost woozy and scary. And like it's almost like if you step out of the zone, you can't quite she can't quite function out
Get
there.
her bearings. Yeah.
Yeah, it's almost like the spell is almost that like the outside world is not attainable to her.
Interesting.
And
I like
that's
that.
always scared me a
Yeah.
lot.
All those handheld New York City shots are amazing. Just incredible, B-roll of New York City, of course. But then, when she finds out Hutch is in a coma, there's that great scary music that's playing as she's kind of wandering in a daze up to storefronts and everything. It's incredible. Obviously, later in the film, when she's basically 9 months pregnant and she just walks across the street, into oncoming traffic. It's just that's what an amazing visual that is. Just very cool. I love all those New York City scenes. I think they add so much to the film.
For West Side all day. Yeah.
I love
Old
it.
school.
I love it.
There's a
And
lot.
eating the meat stuff too. Like
I wanna get to that.
Sorry.
Yeah, there's
Okay.
a lot to get
Go ahead.
to here. So I'm staring at the clock and getting a little worried. But yeah,
to
you're just
get
about to say when she starts eating the raw liver. Again, you have that handheld photography capturing it. She's seeing herself in the reflection of the toaster. Incredible visual.
Best.
Incredible.
So good.
And I know it's so brilliant how like the camera style is changing in those moments. So it's like everything is else. The shots are very composed in certain moments, and then in the moments of her feeling destabilized, you have the handheld,
Yes.
and all of a sudden it feels frantic and disjointed and terrifying.
Yeah.
And her seeing her face and just going, "What is happening to me?" And then you have the idea that she has of, "I need to have a party. I need to see my friends." The party scene is probably my favorite scene from the party until the
great.
fight with Guy after the party. I just think all of that is so incredible in terms of like seeing this woman in this state where like she's being disbelieved, she's being like isolated and controlled. And then you have all these friends come in who are like, "Oh my God, what has been going on?" And every little moment,
Don't let
this
him
tiny
do that
little-
to you. You got to
this
go
little-
to the other doctor.
But you,
It's like,
yeah,
you
and
know,
I
like-
love those.
What's
I
happening.
love those
And it's like
images.
girls only.
I
like
love
they keep
that.
Guy. I love how Guy is like, but I gotta wash
I know.
that plate.
That's what I was gonna say. He's like a slimy little rat. Like he keeps on being like, no. Like every time a friend goes up to talk to her, he's like, "Oh, go, like let me clean that." And like so the whole time he's trying to thwart her.
awful.
And
It's a
finally in the
woman's
kitchen,
nightmare.
the woman's nightmare. And finally the women surround her and are like, "Babe, if you're feeling pain, that means there's something wrong. Who the fuck is this crazy ass doctor?
Yeah.
Don't listen to him. You need to stop." And that's the moment.
Stuff like that is happening right now.
Yeah.
I
to
know.
women
I
all over the
know.
place,
And the
different
idea,
styles.
yes,
But,
but the idea of enforced
Absolutely. So
pregnancy
prevalent.
and gaslighting and all that stuff, it's so prevalent and prescient right now that this movie never stops to be completely terrifying. So it's
Guy's
Sorry.
sort of an obvious manipulator. He's obvious in how he does it. I like how Ruth Gordon is manipulating her, but like
Oh.
really
Yeah.
subtly.
Yeah.
Like she's like,
Yeah.
"Well, you already took the necklace, so
Like-
you know."
like, all right.
She's sort of
I
like,
love it.
"What are you gonna do? Upset me? Are you gonna be rude and not let me manipulate you right now?"
Yeah.
pushy New York energy.
She is
I love it.
she is a like master Carney in this, in the way that she is
Master.
able to be so believable. Like you would be you would never think, and then the way that she's so amazing in this film. She might even be the best performance of the film. Or the most
She got an
underrated
Academy
performance.
Award
She got
for it,
the
right?
Oscar.
Yeah, there you go. Maybe not underrated.
But
then.
that's also genius of the writing because like how he flips that archetype of like evil, villain or witch on its head, like, and by making her this little like nosy New Yorker, like it's totally changing the genre in that way. And so I think that was so surprising to audiences of like, wow, we've never seen this archetype taking the form of this,
very
busy
fresh.
body.
Yeah. So the party scene, fantastic. Seeing a little glimpse into her hip young friends, amazing. Super cool. But then there's this, after the party, she confronts Guy, Rosemary does, about that she wants to go see, Charles Grodin, and man, it's an amazing performance. It's definitely what Cassavetes likes to do, those kind of big scenes. But also there's this really subtle moment when she then when she discovers the baby is kicking for the first time. And then he goes, she's like, here, feel it, Guy, feel it. And then he gets repulsed by
He's
it.
such a pussy, he can't even.
He's like, because he
touch
knows
the thing that he created.
what's in there.
That he's feeling the kicking of Satan.
Yeah.
But it's also interesting, like before that moment when she really confronts him, back to your point, Tom, of she's fucking feisty and savvy and she's not going to just roll over. And like, she's like, I'm not happy. My friends are telling me something's really fucked up. And he's like, how are you're gonna insult Dr. Saperstein? Like, what do you think? And she's like, doctor,
but that's not fair to Dr. Saperstein.
That's not fair to. So it's like that whole thing, and then the fact that she really pushes back. I love that moment.
Yeah,
and that's when the witches see what's happening.
Yeah,
and they realize, we need to take another tactic here because she's fighting, and then they take away the pain. And in that moment, they take away the pain.
Can I just stab in a punchline to all of this? What are we saying that they haven't seen a woman like this in their travels of like taking over women's bodies and minds? There's a punchline to this film though. She's like, oh well, it is my baby.
Yeah.
Like
she embraces the role
to being the mother of even the son of Satan.
So that's, and I think that's very
campy
true,
a little bit, but I love that
because at the same time, it's like when someone is forced to be pregnant, that's part of the scary dynamic. Once they have the baby, a lot of times they're like, okay, I need to embrace this situation, and I love this thing,
and stay with Guy, keep the family, not get divorced.
And I love this thing, but I didn't want it, or I didn't have the agency to plan for it. But I'm still. So it's, I don't know, that's kind of interesting.
That's a punch in the stomach, kind of. Because what I'm saying is it could have ended with like, I'm getting the fuck out of here. That's not my baby. And like hit the road, Jack. And she's like rocking the baby.
Or like killing the baby, or like, we gotta kill this.
The same
right?
thing. It
does not do that. She embraces the destiny of it.
And that's heartbreaking. So I think that makes it, does make it sort of heartbreaking because you want her to escape.
It's a weird final note. With everything we're talking. That's how
because it's kind of saying like she can't win. She can't really win. She can't.
If you guys if you watch the sequel, look what happened to Rosemary.
No, do not bring it up.
Duke. All that's explained,
That's like The Godfather 2. That's even better than.
Wait. So one thing that I also noticed this time on this rewatch too, and I was kind of wondering, was it a slight? Was it a little sort of fuck you to a little certain somebody in this movie? When she's looking for the All of Them Witches book, she's frantic looking for it in the bookshelf. But of course, what's there? A copy of Yes, I Can by Sammy Davis Jr. Did you see that?
Yeah. Well, she was reading that too earlier.
And it's kind of like, I was wondering, because that's, Frank Sinatra's Rat Pack little buddy.
Right.
Sure.
If that was sort of like using Sammy Davis Jr.'s book title as a way to sort of say fuck you to Frank, because as people know, Frank Sinatra and Mia Farrow were married, and he wanted to control her and get her off the movie and to come back with him.
Because he wanted her to be in a movie that he was filming called The Detective.
Right.
And he was guying out really hard.
He was guying. Yeah.
Totally.
Oh, and so I think you're probably right.
I think it's just like, let's put Sammy's book up there as a big fuck you.
No, I'm sure that was with intention. Side note punchline: Sammy Davis Jr. is a renowned Satanist. I'm not making this up.
For sure.
Google it. It's just like a legit one. Like He
Yeah.
rolled hard with Anton
Anton
LaVey.
LaVey. Yeah.
Wow.
There you go.
So punchline.
But and so he
Wow.
Sinatra delivered papers. He served her on set. He served her fucking divorce papers
One of
on
the cast
set.
and crew.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then she's devastated, and it's so cool because she talks about this moment, and she was like, "Listen, my dad was a playwright, a screenwriter. My mom, Maureen O'Sullivan, was an actress. I am not the type of human being that walks off
Yeah.
a film set after 3 months of working with people.
Mm.
I'm not going to do that. So I don't care. I love this man deeply, but no." And she
Yeah.
literally was like not doing it. And she said Sharon Tate really took her in after that. And she helped
Christ.
and she went and lived with them for a while with her and Roman in Santa Monica, and all their
Crazy.
friends embraced her.
Dude.
And I mean the Sharon Tate stuff too, because like the whole thing about being witchy and Satanist, like that was very popular and hip at the time.
Crowley.
And then of course, you know,
and she was 9 months pregnant.
I know.
with their child.
and then when
was murdered.
the murder happened, people were blaming it
With a
on like Satanism,
baby.
the baby that got killed. Well, yeah.
Yeah,
I also
crazy.
wanted to point out the facts is that like Ira Levin also felt very badly that he introduced Satanism back into like the lexicon and zeitgeist of American culture, because obviously after this there was a slew of movies inspired like The Omen, The Exorcist.
It
And-
was hugely influential.
Yes, and
Yeah.
then that really fomented itself into the consciousness of America. By the 80s, the satanic panic moment would not have happened without these movies, sort of
Right.
introducing Satanism as something that can come into
Yeah.
your living room.
Wow.
You know,
God, yeah.
before it was something
Yeah.
that was gothic and
And now we're here with
Psycho
Terrifier
gangs.
3. Like it's going strong.
Right.
All that,
Yeah.
and all that heavy metal rock and roll you listen to, Evan.
Oh,
It's so funny.
Yeah.
oh yeah.
I think it worked in reverse in a weird way. It's like when I grew up in that era, right? So like to me, like all the Satanists were these like young heavy metal people. So the first time I saw this movie as a kid, I was blown away that the Satanists were all these old people.
Oh, I
you know?
know.
Yeah.
That was the big twist for me. Was that they're old? They're not like young.
My favorite is when she finally discovers, of course, their lair, you know, through the closet door and everything. And she goes down there and she's holding the knife. Great iconic pose. And then she sees all the people there. And then when Stephen Marcato, you know, Roman decides to basically, okay, well, cat's out of the bag. We're all Satanists. And then there's just that like 75-year-old guy in the background who's just like, Hail Satan!
Hail Satan!
You know, like,
Satan, woo!
I love it.
And there's like this sort of this crane shot pullout in like a living room. So it's a great image. Can I just give a tiny shout out to the mastery of his filmmaking? Like, let's talk Roman Polanski for a second. There's this tiny little moment where she's running away. She doesn't expect Guy to be coming in briefly to get ice.
right.
She runs and cowers in the dark. And she had knocked the baby carriage a bit, so it started rocking.
Yeah, the bassinet.
So
yeah.
it's going ring,
yeah.
and she has the knife in her hand, like you were just saying. She has the knife in her hand, and so she ceases the rocking so that he doesn't hear it and get suspicious with just the knife blade going like
Beep.
against like the baby carriage. What the fuck? Like,
I love that.
because
So good.
that's him. That's 100% him, and it's like it's visually, it's very juicy, filmatically and thematically. It even works. You know, it's just like wow,
It's great.
Like,
Yeah.
Another
Genius
great
guy.
detail in that scene, which I always think about knife related, when Ruth pulls the knife out of the floor and
Yeah.
she wipes the smudge, she smudges
Yeah.
away
Yeah.
the dent with her
What'd you
finger.
do to my
Mia said she
floors?
thinks that was improvised, that moment.
Yeah.
She said that.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, she thinks Ruth Gordon just did
That's
that on the fly.
great.
But
I'm totally not surprised.
That's exactly what that character would do in that moment.
oh, exactly.
She
Yeah.
does, no, she does it earlier because he spills the drink on the carpet in the beginning.
Oh yeah,
of
she's
the
like the
film.
carpet,
yeah,
the
right.
carpet. Yeah.
He's so messy.
Yeah.
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 Exactly.
And I did we also mention that, I forget if we were talking about this before we filmed, but like the Mia Farrow, just the importance of that casting. I don't know if that was when we were recording, but like
No, I
wanted
don't think
to
we did. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to say quickly that like if it wasn't Mia Farrow, this would not be the movie it is.
No.
Robert Evans was really fighting for her. Polanski wanted either Sharon Tate or Tuesday Weld because in the book she's described as like full-figured and very just like kind of vapid and beautiful. And Robert Evans is like, no, this is not about beauty. This is about that like magic. Like she needs to have this natural fragility, this innocence, but also this like something else is going on, you know? She's got this
Right.
other dimension that's very interesting. And one of the critics said that basically like the casting of Mia Farrow is what gives the movie the magic because it's like she's this beautiful, delicate fawn who like we want to reach out into the screen and desperately like help.
Totally.
And I think that is you so just want to wrap your arms around this person. And I think with another lesser actress who was more cookie cutter, that would never have happened.
For sure.
No, agree.
She has that fragility, even in her the way she sings that lullaby at the beginning, you know, it's like her sort of like broken voice, almost like Serge Gainsbourg or something, where it's like kind of fragile female vocals.
And she's interesting, like because Mia herself, like she was a total flower child hippie at the time. She on set had like painted her dressing room all psychedelic and colors, and she was like playing ping pong on set, and she was into like the ashram stuff and the meditation, and so she was super far out. Cool. And I think she was super cool, and I think like she just had this energy that brought something very unique that people today, it still resonates with people, you know, like
wow.
Yeah. It's Sissy Spacek and Carrie level, like perfect necessary casting, or would not
very
have been
similar in that way. Like could not have been anybody else, and the movie would have probably failed if it wasn't for that person.
One thing I want to say too, just about like the big reveal scene at the end, of course, you know, when everyone's coming clean, and we touched on it earlier, you know, when John Cassavetes is like, well, you know, they didn't hurt you, you know, and what was I supposed to do, you know, type of thing.
Great. Then she spits in his fucking face.
Yeah.
Great reaction. Just, you know.
Yeah.
Awesome. Great.
No words.
No words. Yeah. Spit in the face. Great choice. You know, totally works.
Feels good. It feels good.
It feels good. It feels good.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, again, just the ending, you know, Tom, before we started recording, you said it was kind of EC Comics, you know, in that way that it is kind of this irony, and it's amazing. It's just the fact that she does then wind up becoming the mother to this child is it's a disturbing ending, but it's the right ending, and
and that's why the movie's amazing. It has this mixture of like dark humor, psychological horror, like incredible art filmmaking, and I think that's we were saying earlier that alchemy is the reason this movie just stands the test of time. You know?
It is amazing that it stands up so well, just because like, you know, you go back and watch Fearless Vampire Killers from like just like the year before, and it feels it's like hard to get. I love it, but it's hard to sit through. It's like it's so 60s.
Well, that had a lot of that didn't have. It had everything going against it, unlike as we're saying with this film, like, you know,
everything
they had to change the location and stuff like that. Yeah. So no, but the thing I was going to say, Polanski, there's that weird dark Polanski humor is on exhibit here, and I think that fits. What I'm trying to say is like, and this is not an insult in any way, but it's like it has like a pulpy, campy EC Comics storyline. If you just look at it flatly, like that would be right out of a comic book, especially the way it ends.
Yeah.
But he picks up on that. Like he likes that because he is in a way he makes comedies almost.
Yeah.
It's just that it doesn't quite read because, you know, they're not broad comedies. Like not a gag, but it's an ironic. It's almost a womp, you know, like this lady, guess what she's going to wind up doing? Raising the son of Satan. By the way, raising the son of Satan means that the world is going to become like a hellfire. You know, it's like electing Donald Trump a second time or something. You know, it's like she's for her, to her it's a baby. For the rest of the world,
this is changing
going to be like an apocalypse nightmare.
Yeah. And I think once again, the fact that it's in this more mundane domestic setting is what made the movie so popular. You know, it was like, fuck, we've never seen that before. That's incredible.
I think you're right about the comedy too, especially with the old cast being like old people from like Patsy Kelly. So being people from comedies, you know, and they have that comedic timing and stuff.
Absolutely.
Oh, the Japanese guy with the camera. That's like comedy.
Who's the woman?
But grotesque.
Who's the woman that's like at her bedside
fucking
when she
Lorelei?
wakes up? When she wakes
fucking
up.
Fucking Lorelei, dude.
Laura Louise.
Laura Louise. Sorry.
Lorelei.
That's my jam. Laura Louise.
Yeah, Laura Louise.
But I think
good
big dummy. You know.
Yeah.
You're rocking him,
Drew Carey.
Hard.
Oh, I hate her. But we talk about before, like Drew Carey, how like these movies now are trying to emulate. You know, like after Get Out, like all the other bad Jordan Peele movies and the bad spawns of those movies, like are trying to do the the like we're doing subtext, we're doing message movies,
Yeah.
but like they're sacrificing the actual quality of the movie itself,
Right,
and there's no real humor and no real artistry.
Yeah.
And so it's like this is the gold standard of
Oh,
a
yeah.
movie that has incredible subtext.
Yep.
It also harkens to like the paranoia movies of the 1970s. That would become an entire genre.
Yeah.
Parallax View, All the President's
The
Men,
Watergate film.
right? The Conversation, and all those
3 Days
movies
of a
have
Condor.
this, right? Sense of paranoia politically. This was really ahead of its time. Like I would say, this was probably the first movie that almost started that genre. But in terms of women's perspective,
No, you're 100% right. I seem to remember almost like Mad Magazine had a joke like Nixon is Rosemary's Baby.
Oh
that
yeah, I
kind of-
have it in this book.
Oh, that's
5
real.
seconds.
Is that right? Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let me see.
What is it?
All right.
Can you
Well,
see this?
We'll clock out, but
Boom.
yeah, dude.
We'll scan it and
Rosemary's
put it up.
Poo-poo.
Yeah. Mama
Okay,
poo-poo.
this book also a plug to this book. This
what
is
is
no
that?
this is no dream. The making
It's
of
really
Rosemary's
cool.
Baby. It's incredible.
Oh, dude.
Beautiful.
Amazon.com.
You gotta get this, guys.
Yeah.
What is it
It's
called?
just-
Not a dream?
look, Tom. This is.
Wow.
I'm gonna send you
Wow.
these
What is that?
pictures.
Is that Alien Autopsy?
This is like literally.
What is that? What am I looking at? Oh, I see.
It's really cool.
it
That
does
other
look like-
shot. I couldn't tell.
We'll put a link in the
What is it
description.
called?
Okay.
We'll put a link in the
I'm
description of the video,
link
and you
in the
can
thing.
check out this book that Ramey's hyping here. It's pretty sweet. I had a chance to look through
Awesome.
it.
Beautiful set photography.
Yeah.
Of this photographer who was on set capturing the most amazing intimate moments, and then with all the stories from
Nice.
the set. So if anyone wants to learn more about like
Okay.
get more
All
into
right.
Great.
detail about
Look,
the making.
we did it.
We did it. I
That
gotta
was-
say,
we call it here at the studio. It's a hard hour.
yeah,
Hard hour.
we got-
We did it, guys.
Yeah.
We did it. That
Yeah,
was
it-
one
it
fucking
happened.
hour, everybody, on Rosemary's Baby, of course, as part of our
One fucking October.
series that we're doing right now.
Scary. That
very
means
scary.
echo too.
Yeah, I can add some. I will next
The
time.
next time.
Anyway, thanks for watching this, everybody. It was totally awesome to revisit this movie. Of course, we've now can cross this off the list. Would love to do more Polanski, by the way, too. Shout out, we did do the Tenet, in the archives as well. So check that out. And let's just quickly touch on what we're doing next week, guys. This is the big finish for One Fucking Tober. We are doing
Back to the ridiculous.
back to the
you know,
ridiculous.
from
We
the
went from
sublime
the
to the
sublime
ridiculous.
to the ridiculous. We are doing a 1 fucking hour masterclass on the 8 Friday the 13th films, part 1.
Ay, ay, ay.
And so this is a special 8-hour, 1 fucking hour.
No, that would
So
be insane.
strap yourselves in.
No,
Yeah,
it's
we're
gonna
doing
be
1
1
hour
hour.
each film.
It's going to be 1 hour.
Oh, right.
Treating all the Friday the 13th films 1 through 8 as one film. So we're going to go through.
To get watching now.
I need to fucking
Right.
get watching.
You haven't
No.
started
No.
yet. You're screwed. It's-
We're only through the second one. We're only.
Don't tell them
The
that.
second one. Jesus Christ.
Second
Now,
one.
now, let me just
sucks.
give you an indication because I'm doing the masterclass here. Let me just give you an indication about how bad I am with this, how deep I am, and how
Okay.
I am not going to watch any of them
Wow.
because I don't need
Oh,
to.
shit.
And
That's fucked up.
I did just do that with that Friday the 13th like last month. So
Okay, so you're good.
Anyway, I'm loaded for bear.
Oh.
You're good.
It'll be fun. It's one big film.
Yeah.
We're going to walk through it as if it's one, whatever it is, like
Okay.
8 times 90 film, and just and talk about like
it's
the moves and
Satantango.
shakes.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Like Jason, like now. Yeah, exactly. It's one sprawling narrative.
Yeah.
Of,
Bellatar's Friday the
his mom and
13th.
Jason Bourne.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
Um,
Exactly.
So I guess you don't have time to get your pre-watch in, but we've been hyping this all month. So hopefully you've been checking out the Friday films, or maybe you know them like Tom, like the back of your hand.
Well,
So-
let me point out this. Maybe you're soft on a title or two.
Sure.
Yeah. Oh,
Like,
yeah.
like maybe
Watch
like,
5.
I got it. Like I gotta really like let's do 5. It's
Make
been
sure
a
you
while.
got 5 and 7 on
Yeah,
lockdown.
7. Got to rock out with 7. Take another look at 8. 4 it out. If 2's soft, hit it up.
We're just calling them all out.
3.
All right, we're gonna do it. So get ready. That's of
There's
course
3?
that's coming up next. 1 fucking hour masterclass on the Friday the 13th films. So get ready for that. And quick last shout out to the 1 fucking hour Patreon, everybody. Patreon.com/1 fucking hour is where you can sign up. It's the best way to support the show, $5 a month, get access to all of our bonus episodes, all of our audio commentary tracks, or you can click on if you want to on YouTube, if you want to sign up on YouTube, just go to our homepage on the YouTube channel, click the join button there, and you can become a moment of the channel. And we really appreciate the support. Thank you to everyone who signed up recently.
Yeah, for sure.
Really appreciate that. All right, everybody. Well, let's get the fuck out of here. But before we do, we can't leave everybody, of course, without. Whoop, sorry, I'm getting used to this thing. We can't leave everybody out without their moment of Zen. All right, everybody. We'll see you next week. Take care, and yeah, everybody. See you next time. All right. So long.
Satan lives.
Bye.
Yeah.
That for the first time, the young people are peaceful and want to speak about love and peace, and they really mean it. And that's what's so great about it.
Motherfucking goddamn orange peel beef.
That was wicked, man.